it away again, and of course we have apologies from Glenn and David East because they are at a community board meeting. So could I invite Roger Davidson from the Property Council of New Zealand to come forward, please? Good afternoon, welcome.
Thank you. It's on.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Property Council. I would also like to introduce Jane Budge, who's our Senior Advocacy Advisor assisting me here today. Jane has a broad knowledge of local and central government, so I'll hopefully be able to answer any technical questions you may have that I won't be able to answer. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate the Council on the simplicity of your LTP and how clearly the different options have been laid out, making a complex document simple and transparent for the community. The Property Council broadly supports the Council's LTP review and note that a balanced approach has been undertaken to manage all the needs of the city over the next 10 years. The Property Council understands the challenges facing Christchurch and believe the Council has taken a prudent approach to prioritising some significant infrastructure projects whilst trying to undertake community projects. However, we do believe that further prioritisation can be undertaken to ensure a more balanced approach to the rates increases. We believe that 5.5% is still too high and are opposed to constant rate increases. We acknowledge the need to continue to fund infrastructure investment and renewal and the challenges facing Council in undertaking this. However, the proposed rate increases could lead to a competitive advantage to neighbouring districts which are proposing more reasonable increases. We recognise the Council is currently limited in what it can do to raise funds, and we would encourage the Council to investigate alternative funding mechanisms as a means of easing the funding burden on ratepayers. The Property Council is happy to engage with Council in developing and advocating for alternative infrastructure tools with central government and suggest long-term funding solutions that are required for long-term benefit, and are happy to support the Council in this endeavour. Having said that, we do not support the regional fuel tax proposed by central government, as this is likely to have unintended consequences such as neighbouring districts becoming more competitive. The Property Council supports the initiatives that protect buildings from flooding and also supports initiatives prioritising the Three Waters infrastructure. We agree it is sensible to prioritise drinking water, however we believe wastewater is also important and suggest reprioritising some of the transport budget to wastewater. We are very concerned with the prioritisation within the transport budget and believe the mix is wrong. 206 million to be spent on cycle initiatives is too high when compared with 263 million on roading projects. We suggest the transport budget is weighted towards cycling and that some of it should be used for more pressing issues such as wastewater. We recognise the balancing act required for the various council services and believe priority should be given to more pressing issues. We suggest that even the communities may accept a lesser standard of roads over inferior drinking water and wastewater infrastructure. The Property Council believes that the current traffic management system prioritising cycleways is causing significant frustrations. Our members have suggested that these cycleways can be dangerous and are adding to the congestion issues of the CBD, not easing it. To purposely constrain one mode of transportation to encourage movement to other modes could have unintended negative consequences. Vehicular traffic is an important component of economic activity in the CBD, and to continue to restrict movement may affect economic growth. We believe that an accessible city project is only exacerbating issues with the CBD congestion. As mentioned previously, we would suggest that parts of the transportation budget, i.e. cycling, should be reprioritised for more pressing projects. The Property Council supports prioritising the anchor projects that include central government funding, and we note that these projects are likely to rejuvenate the CBD. However, we believe that anchor projects need to be undertaken at pace. We note projects such as the stadium are not due to be undertaken until 2023 to 2025. And we suggest that Christchurch is still missing out on major events because of its lack of large facilities for such events. It is time to recognise that a stadium is part of the critical infrastructure of a modern city, not a luxury. It is a key part of marketing a city and attracting events and visitors. Once a city has plans for a large stadium, hotel chains look to move in close by, bars and eateries follow suit, and the result is what we want: rejuvenation. The LTP has proposed another 1.4 million for Christchurch NZ so that we can put more effort into marketing to attract large events to the city. Right now, Christchurch is missing out on major events because of a lack of a stadium. The increased funding for Christchurch NZ is premature without the facilities to hold the major events suggested. We suggest that it only be of value 2 years before the facility is available. Big events and conferences only planned about 2 years out from such an event. Getting a world-class stadium here is a great next step because it's about bringing people into Christchurch to enjoy what we have to offer. It needs to be of sufficient size if we wish to compete on the world stage and attract top-tier events to the Canterbury region. Discussions on trying to decrease the future running costs of the stadium should not override critical decisions on the size of the stadium. To reduce the size of the stadium that is proposed to lessen running costs is nonsensical and short-sighted. We need a stadium with a roof that is suitable for what event promoters want and is appropriately sized for our population base. Why would we build a stadium that is smaller than those in Dunedin or Wellington? As I have noted, the Property Council sees the stadium as part of the critical infrastructure of a modern city, not a luxury, and we urge the Council to follow through with the Mayor's desire to have it pushed through as quickly as possible. I thank you for your time, and Jane and I are more than happy to take any questions on the submission that we put in on behalf of the Property Council.
That's lovely, thank you. Vicky?
Thank you for your submission. I'm just confused by some of it. You talk about seeking alternative funding because you don't want the whole burden of funding local government sitting on ratepayers. But then you say you're not keen on a fuel tax because it gives neighbouring districts, makes them more competitive. If there was a regional fuel tax, it would apply in the neighbouring districts.
No, not necessarily. It depends where the boundaries are set, and if it's Christchurch City Council seeking it for the Christchurch City Council boundary, it's unlikely to go
if there is a
neighbouring.
regional fuel tax, it will apply to the neighbouring districts.
Yes.
Would you still be opposed to it, or?
So you're saying Canterbury, as in the region?
Well, if there was a regional fuel tax, it would be regional. So if it applied to the neighbouring districts, would you still be opposed to it, given that a 4 cents one would drop rates by 3 cents, 3%, and a 10 cent one would obviously drop them by a lot, maybe 8%.
I think where the boundary is will dictate whether, and we're guessing here, whether alternative behaviours will ensue.
So
if you drive to Dunedin and you're driving back, well, you might fill your car up at Ashburton, so you avoid the boundary, assuming the boundary is...
Right, so your concern is the boundaries rather than the concept?
Yes, because people will take advantage of...
Phil? Mike?
Thank you for your submission. I just wondered if you're aware that in Christchurch, community boards don't make decisions on transport generally. They do on some road markings, but they're a council decision. Well, in Auckland they may, I'm not sure. But look, I also wanted to ask you about the, like you've had some concern about the cycleways, and just in terms of the government policy statement, that some of the strategic directions there include things like the environment and access and safety. So I'm just wondering if you can, in making a submission, if you'd also perhaps consider those too.
Correct. We're well aware of the new government's priorities to definitely prioritise buses and alternative transport modes. However, I've been led to believe that some of the cycling lanes in the CBD have caused some actual concerns by getting emergency vehicles into places that they needed to be.
Is that your main concern?
So,
That's
safety concerns, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mike?
Thank you. I was just interested in the comment you made about spending $206 million on cycleways and those cycleways compared to $263 million on road projects. I assume you got that information from here.
Yep.
It's actually a little bit more than 263 because the roading project is actually this whole side of the graph, which actually totals $418 million. So the gap's actually not as close as you think it is, and obviously also the cycleways, the rebate on that is obviously a lot more substantial than it is on just standard roading projects.
Yes, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think there might be some portion of central government funding related to the spend by the council on cycleways.
Yeah, it's $2 for every $1 we spend. That was the previous amount, but we've only judged it on the 1 for 1. But we think this government's going back to the 1 to 2 as well. Yeah.
So yeah, probably taking more of an approach in this room here as opposed to how the public would read it. And
yeah,
I'm bouncing around on my road and look at this 200.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about how you.
It's significant money obviously spent on roading. It's not just that 263. It actually goes right around that whole section.
Yeah, we know that we've got to get the balancing right, but there are subsidies that sit with different parts of the project, and they're subsidised at different levels.
Yeah. I sort of knew that was in the background, but it's just about how you portray that to the public. Without telling them too much.
Yeah, okay, it's not intentional. Sorry, Sarah, did you want to just add to that?
Just a quick follow-up. I mean, the reporting on it has changed relatively recently as well, and when the press, for example, have been reporting that 206, they have been putting in brackets, with 51 to 66% subsidies back. We just have to say the 206 to start with, and in the financial assumptions it gives us some rebate on those. I just wondering if you had any, because part of your concern was that wasn't just the money, it was the congestion and things that you think that they're causing in the CBD, and I was just wondering if, with another sort of 10,000 people due to be working in the CBD in the next sort of 3 to 4 years, if you had any alternate ideas for being able to cope with the roading, being able to cope capacity-wise with the number of people coming in.
I think you can, with the congestion, there's obviously peak periods with morning peak and afternoon peak, and we can see the opportunity there to move people into public transport and cycles, whatever it may be, other modes, just makes sense.
Yeah.
No one's arguing that point. It's more about the rest of the day, the activity that, like, I come here today, I didn't bike, I've got to take Jane to the airport, I'm not biking her there. So that's the economic activity is
You'd be
what
very
I'm talking
fit if
about.
you did.
For a city to operate, the vehicles still need to come and go.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, we're not aiming for 100% biking. If we got to 15, we'd be, making huge inroads into the congestion and stuff in our city. It's just leaving the roads open for those who do need to use a car for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's really good. So I think that's been a really helpful conversation and a great contribution. I think Christchurch NZ would have a different view of how long it takes to get those big events, but we'll consider that one as well.
Certainly wasn't opening up to relitigate St Asaph Street or anything
No.
like that again. No, wasn't going there.
No, let's not.
No.
Okay, look, thank you very much for your presentation. It's much appreciated.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.